Good evening and welcome to another live stream, another week of chaos in the crypto markets. Everyone feeling a bit jittery, everyone a bit nervous about price action, and tonight we're going to cover what we're seeing, what we think, what's happening, why we remain ultra bullish long term despite the nervousness, the fragility in the markets that we spoke about for a while. And we did say a couple of streams ago, I did say that I thought by the 20th of November, that's kind of where things would start looking a bit better. Easy in hindsight to claim that was a good claim, but we'll talk about why I think we're going to see a shift in the market in the next couple of days, maybe the end of this week, probably where it really starts to kick in. And also we're going to answer some questions. So the purpose of tonight's stream is not necessarily to go through chart by chart, look at this coin, look at that coin, look at this coin. The charts look horrific, if we're brutally honest. We can look at the odd chart, we'll look at a couple of coins, but if we just go chart by chart, nobody's really going to get anything out that. What we thought we would do tonight is just, there's a lot of questions, we're getting a lot in CC Pro, there's a lot coming in by DMs, there's a lot on Twitter just now, a lot of noise. So we thought we'd come and put our perspective, answer some questions, a bit broader rather than just what do you think of this coin, what target do you think this coin can get to, and try and calm everybody down, remain some perspective, and really dive into why we are all here. So let's have a look at Bitcoin first. We'll always look at the Bitcoin chart, let's be honest. Bitcoin just put in the new weekly low a couple of hours ago, 93.8. So currently trading at 94.3. 93.8 is the weekly low we put in earlier today, which is kind of strange because normally on Sundays we're seeing scam pumps. This weekend we've got a dump, so is that bullish, bearish? Hard to say right now. But what we do know is we have a Bitcoin CME gap at 91.8 to 92.8, I believe. So in my eyes, the sooner we close that, the better for everybody in the market. I think there is a bit of nervousness that we're going to fall to that level. I think hopefully it happens tonight. The ideal scenario would be that Bitcoin dumps in the next 3 hours. Bitcoin futures open down here somewhere in this gap, fill this gap, leave a CME gap to the upside, and then fill that as tomorrow and Tuesday happens. That would be the most bullish scenario. Whether that's going to happen or not, we need to wait and see tonight when the futures open. But everybody's screaming bearishness. Extreme fear in the markets. We have sentiment. I honestly think sentiment's worse than even when FTX collapsed. And I kind of understand why, and I'll talk about why shortly. But Bitcoin 94k pretty much retraced all of the rally since the April tariffs. I mean, I don't think we're going to get to 80k, but famous last words. But that would be the most bullish scenarios if we could close, or sorry, if we could open the futures tonight in and around that 91, 92k level, fill the gap, move back up. Just gets it over and done with. This slow daily grind is what really kills sentiment. And it's now been over 4 weeks, coming up for 5 weeks since the Binance capitulation event. That will be putting people off the market, there is no doubt. However, I do think the biggest marketing or the biggest PR to draw people back into the markets is just a nice green candle, and everybody will come back into the markets. We'll touch on Borg tonight, and I've got some stories as well to share. Let's have a quick look, see who's in. So Deck's in, recovering from surgery. Good to have Deck on. He missed last week when everybody was kicking off. He would have loved it as well. Lewis at Glasgow, yeah, exactly. Let's see, Andrew Robinson. We could all use some of Deck's drugs. I think Deck's drugs are getting more engagement than the crypto. Ali's got Tesco, and Ben says the charts look grim. Yeah, they do. I don't think anybody's denying that the charts look grim. I think if we look on the weekly, we can see that market structure has finally kind of changed. So we were in a constant uptrend until last week's candle, where we broke that higher low formation that we've been in. So the charts do look horrific. What's trending everywhere right now is the bearish cross on the daily chart. Let me see if I can pull this up. I think it's this one. So a bear death cross is what's trending. You'll hear it called bearish death cross, a death cross, whatever. It's basically when the 50 MA crosses below the 200 MA on the daily time frame. That is happening right now. It'll probably be confirmed in the next few hours. However, we have had them before, and in all honesty, it's one of those ones. Is it a self-fulfilling prophecy, or because it happens people sell and people get negged out, or does it actually mean anything? We can look back and we can see we had one in April and we bottomed literally 2 days later. So does that mean we're going to bottom in the next couple of days? Who knows? We also had one back in August 2024, which if you've tuned out my streams or NCC Pro, you'll have heard me talk about August loads of times. We'd actually bottomed 2 days before that death cross in August, and we traded sideways and then recovered, and everybody knows what happened after that. And then we had one back here. This was back in September 2023. Again, we had already bottomed by the time the death cross happened, and then again we were at 25k. Then we went on to put in a huge rally. So to me, the death cross, I don't really pay too much attention to these things, but what I would say is, if we've not already bottomed, I would imagine the death cross confirms that bottom in the next couple of days, and chop sideways and then higher is the pattern that we saw 3 times already this cycle. So that to me, that's not a bearish sign to me. As I keep saying, like, I'd rather we just bottomed and got it over and done with. If that means a massive flash crash tonight, so be it. Let's just get it over and done with rather than this slow grind sideways and down. So yeah, the charts do look quite grim, but the fundamentals don't change. The tailwinds that are coming to the crypto space don't change. The massive bullish momentum that is coming doesn't change. It's still happening. It's still a thing. So yeah, the charts do look grim right now, but for me, I've said before, I think the 3-day 200 MA sits at 87, almost 88k. If we lost that, I would seriously consider how bullish I am. If we got even close to the weekly, it would be game over, I think, at that rate. But I just don't think we're going to end this cycle when everybody's fearful. That's just not how how tops are created. Tops aren't created when retail's not sucked in, people aren't feeling bullish. Like, you know, you're at a top when people are screaming for 500k Bitcoin, everyone thinks they're a genius, people are making loads of money. That's when you're at a top, and it just doesn't feel like we've been there yet. And altcoins definitely haven't been there. So yeah, I think that's kind of my take on that. Let's have a look and see what's happening. So Lee says, thoughts on Xpin. Swissborg just listed it this week. I don't necessarily have an opinion. I think there's so many projects launching right now, mostly because they've held off for 2 years waiting for the perfect bull run set up, and then they've got to the point where they just have to launch. I think it looks pretty cool. It's like, I think it's tied to a SIM card, which you can use anywhere in the world. So pretty cool. I think these things are going to become more prominent. I think we are going to see things like that take hold of real world life as AI becomes things, autonomous robots and whatever AI narrative you want to believe. The world is going to become more connected, and I think it could have a really good use case, but I don't know enough about the fundamentals, to be honest. So yeah, let's have a look at some of these stories, and then that'll probably answer a few questions, and then we can get back to it. So this is the macro overview. So let's start with this. So Darius Dale, great kind of macro economist. he's been saying for a while that right now we're going into that paradigm C, which he calls it, which is basically where the Federal Reserve's job is to print and help the economy grow. And basically when that fails, which he thinks it's likely to fail, is they're going to just start handing out money, which we've already saw the Trump administration say. Mamdani got elected in New York, and for everybody that's, and I'm one, like, super critical of socialism, basically him getting elected in the biggest capitalist city in the world basically tells you what people are feeling. They want free stuff. They want the government to hand out stuff. They want the government to print billions of dollars and just make stuff cheaper for them. Whether you like it or not, whether that's right or wrong, which obviously I think is wrong, that's what people vote for. The minute the voters turn, politicians turn. And that's what they're going to be forced to do. And that's kind of what he's saying is, you know, when the Federal Reserve doesn't print enough and doesn't lower the cost of living enough for people, they're going to have to start just basically buying votes with stimulus checks, price caps, basically buying back bonds. If we move on, Eric Doughty, basically the exact same thing, but it's coming from Scott Bessent, who's part of the Trump administration, saying that he expects the economy to substantially accelerate in Q1 and Q2 next year. The real reason that they're going to do this is because they're going to pump liquidity into the system. They're going to pump liquidity into the economy. They're still blaming Biden. Trump's got a real problem on his hands in that people are starting to get bored of his talking points. And the easiest way to shut them up is by print loads of money, give people loads of free stuff, make people feel much better off as we approach an election. And that's what they're going to do. And I've said that for a year now. James, who we've had on the podcast before, just reminds everybody that when the US government shut down in January 2019, 5 red days later, Bitcoin dropped 9%. Well, this week we've dropped 10%, so ties in. And then we recovered after that, and Bitcoin started going up. So, yeah, maybe we'll see a similar pattern play out. James also shows the death cross. So this is what everybody's pointing out to, is the death cross is currently happening. It's going to be confirmed in 4 hours from now on the Bitcoin daily close. But as you can see, that we bottom pretty much around the death cross every single time going back to 2023. So basically, if we don't see some form of recovery over the next probably 10 days to 14 days, then this pattern is invalidated. But it looks likely that we could do something similar again. And then Henrik Zeberg said that he thinks the bottom is very close. And Henrik's quite bearish, so him saying the bottom's close is a decent signal to the markets, I would say. All right, let's see what questions I could go through. Stephen, Connor says, have we been in touch with the Alvara team? Yeah, I speak to the Alvara team now and again. But I've said before, I don't like the price. I don't like what's going on. I don't like the fact that there's not a lot of marketing being done. But would you blow your marketing budget right now in crypto when engagement is at horrifically low levels? People hate crypto. You've got big influencers on Twitter talking about moving from crypto to stocks because they think they can pick stocks better than crypto and risk and all this nonsense. Would you blow your marketing budget now, or would you just hold off and be like, let's let people sell? If people want to sell at the absolute lows, get them out of the market, and then when the time is right and hype starts to return and we see some momentum in the market, then start spending on marketing, and then actually price will rally really hard. Maybe that's what they're doing. And you saw with Flame over the past couple of weeks, I think Flame's up like nearly 200%, or it was. I've seen no marketing from Flame, but what it shows is there's absolute zero sell pressure left in the chart because everybody that sold's already out the chart. So all it takes is some buyers to come in and price can move really quickly, and there's no real resistance. So I'm not necessarily defending the Alvara team, but if I had a set marketing budget, would I blow it right now with the market conditions and sentiment and basically just clicks and buy pressure? Probably not. I'd probably hold off as well. I don't like it. I'd rather price was a lot higher. I hold a lot of Avara, very bullish on it, but it's just the reality of business. Crypto coins elite. More chances of getting a pump of them. I don't believe you've got misses. Let's see. Lee says, thanks, Mark. Much appreciated. I've bought into it. Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think Xpin will be decent long term. I think the SIM card would be pretty cool. Stephen says, what will your thoughts be if we tank through the CME gap into the 80s? So, I guess we need to decide once we get there. I think if we blow through kind of 88k, things are going to get rough, really rough for altcoins. I think the 3-day 200 MA on the CME chart is at 73k. Bitcoin charts is 88k. Anywhere below 88k is going to start getting precarious, and it will test some sense of how bullish or bearish we are. For me, I still think it's hard to say because certain levels break. It is going to need some kind of analysis, but I still think this market goes a lot higher. I still think this cycle we see 150k Bitcoin, even higher, 200k Bitcoin. The when is the hardest part, and unfortunately that's just the way it is with markets, and crypto's suffering a little bit just now. But we've saw this picture before, we've saw this game before, and actually, ironically, since I joined CC Pro, the worst sentiment I remember is August 2024, and that was a death cross as well. So it makes sense that we're also seeing the worst sentiment since then, right now, at a death cross. It does feel like it all kind of goes hand in hand. So, yeah. Usman, you think if we trend down on Bitcoin and break support and turn it into resistance, we will still get an alt season? At what point do you say it's a bear market? I don't think we're going into a bear market right now. I think, if anything, altcoins are still in a bear market. Altcoins haven't really came out of a proper bear market. And that doesn't... You can't say that. So people are going to criticise and say, well, you didn't say that a year ago. You can only make analysis up as things happen. Like, we're still in a very young market. For most altcoins, this is their first bull run. So it's hard to look back on history. But what I would say is the market is completely changing. And if you look at the stock market, it's doing the exact same thing. We've had the Mag 7 absolute hammer returns over the last 2 years. The rest of the stock market's flat or down. Most of the stock market hasn't performed over the last year. It's just driven by the Mag 7. We're seeing the exact same phenomenon in crypto. We're seeing Bitcoin absolute destroy. We're seeing Solana had a pump last year, and Ethereum has had a bit of a pump this year. But other than that, most of the market is behaving exactly like the stock market. It's just that it's more extreme because of the market caps. It's more extreme because of the type of investors in crypto, typically more kind of retail and more degens who want to trade. And then also, most of these coins aren't backed by anything like a real business, so there's no conviction level. So I think people just have to understand that it's a maturing market, and that's why altcoins are lagging. But it's just like the Russell 2000's barely made a new all-time high. Meanwhile, Dow Jones is at all-time high, S&P 500 is at all-time high, Nasdaq all-time high. Russell 2000 kind of struggled. It made this pop up and then immediately retraced. So yeah, it's just exact same scenario in crypto. Do I think there's any chance of a... Yeah, I think the Fed cuts in December. I think that all this noise is just jawboning, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's 50-50 pretty much. What's Polymarket doing? 25. Yeah, so it's pretty close. But we're 3 weeks out, and we've had zero data from the economy because of the shutdown. I think the Fed cuts in December. I'm pretty confident the Fed cuts in December. QT's going to end. Will they pivot to QE? Probably not, but I think they'll signal QE coming. But it doesn't matter because the TGA is currently, in fact, I can probably pull that up. So yeah, I think they'll cut the TGA. Basically, the Fed's bank account is at the highest level it's been at since April 2021. So they're going to start spending that this week. They've not been spending money. No money's been going out of the economy from tax receipts and things like that. That's going to change this week. In terms of the stimulus checks, I think there will be some kind of stimulus, but I don't think it's going to be a $2,000 check posted out to Americans. I think it'll be like a tax rebate or some kind of thing like that. I can't see how Trump could campaign a year ago on getting the budget in line and then just hand out $2,000 to every American. Just don't think, like, even Trump couldn't sell that. I think he'll do some rebate or he'll do some tax reduction or something like that. I think it'll be more like that. Thoughts on M2 money supply and Bitcoin chart correlation at the moment? Like the same thought I've had for a while. It correlated for literally a year, and out of what Bitcoin's been around, 16 years, 15 years, it correlated for 12 months, and everybody claimed it was this magic correlation. I said at the time, and you could go back, I said it on stream, that the problem with these correlations is if you look at a snippet in time, the correlation's super tight. But if you zoomed out, there was no correlation in 2017 and there was no correlation in 2019, 2020. There is a correlation between Bitcoin and crypto and global liquidity, but it's not like you can't just chart it. If it was that easy, everyone in the world would be making millions of dollars. If it was that easy to just be like, global liquidity is going down, get out of crypto, global liquidity is going up, get into, like, it's not that easy a correlation. There is a correlation, it's a loose link, and it will eventually make Bitcoin go up, but it's not exact where you can just throw it on a chart and it works. And also I think everybody's got different M2s. So US M2, for example, is finally making new highs, but the actual real driver, in my opinion, is the central bank balance sheet, and this is still trending down slightly. This will end and start going flat as of the 1st of December, so actually a week before the Fed meeting. That will have positive liquidity effects on markets. It's just a fact, and probably the reason they've chose December is because it's in the run up to the holidays. People feel good, traders will make some money before Christmas, and yeah, so this is the key for me. Let's see. Yeah, Bitcoin and Mag 7 up, altcoins and Russell flat. That's literally been the play for 2 years. And just like people in TradFi don't try and lump them all together. So small caps and Mag 7, like, they don't try and lump them all together. Bitcoin and crypto might diverge and there might be this different movement, but long term, Bitcoin goes up, it's going to drag crypto up. Bitcoin's going top, then crypto will run after. It's just the flow of money, and that's kind of what we're seeing. I think Mag 7 stocks have upside from here, but it's not going to be as parabolic as it has been. I do think small caps are going to have their day. Liquidity, rate cuts, QE, deregulation, all that stuff's coming. The big beautiful bill's not even taken into account yet. The Clarity Act for crypto's not taken into account. All these things are coming. If anything, they're being held back so that they get mass impact in the run up to the election next year. The big beautiful bill's got massive deregulation and funding for small caps and startups. So we'll see the Russell run hard next year. I think that's where more gains will be made than the Mag 7 next year. But I still think Nvidia and Tesla will do well, just because the AI narrative's not going away, regardless of what MD tells you about it being a bubble. Yeah, it won't pop next year. Kiza says Filecoin. Yeah, I might look at charts in a bit. So the 4-year cycle. So we've spoken about the 4-year cycle before. So the 4-year cycle technically should probably top now, this month, maybe next month. But the 4-year cycle, what is now obvious is the 4-year cycle was it was more about the business cycle and the liquidity cycle rather than the halving, or at least as halvings get less and less because the cut becomes less. So when it went from 50 Bitcoin to 25, like, that's a big shrink in supply. When it goes from 6.25 to 3.125, that's not as big a supply shock. It still has an impact, but not as big an impact. But what we're actually seeing is that it's more about global liquidity. It's more about QE, the macro environment, and the business cycle than just the halving. I think that's what we've probably learned and probably becoming clear. And everybody has to remember that, Bitcoin's 15 years old. There's only so many patterns, and the worst phrase in the world is "this time is different." But unfortunately, in all markets, eventually this time does become different, and I think we're in that stage of acceptance that this is a different cycle, this is a completely different market, and while we'll still see certain patterns that we've seen before, we just have to accept that the 4-year cycle isn't going to play out, and we're not going to top in the next 2 weeks and end the 4-year cycle in 2 weeks. Christiana likes what Alvaro. Yeah, that's the thing with Alvaro. Like, it's an amazing project. Christina, I don't know why I keep pronouncing your name wrong. We will be doing a big piece on Mexi this week in CC Pro. So it'll be in CC Pro. There will be a podcast on it as well. I've kind of been working on it, but I just wanted to make sure everything was correct because it's not the most flattering article in the world. So yeah, we'll drop that in CC Pro probably Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, and the podcast will come out that day as well, where we just break down some things. Not just about Mexi, it's not just about slandering them or whatever, it's more about explaining why we have preferences of where we keep our money and where we trade. But there's been a few red flags about Mexi. I mean, they do 200x leverage. Like, they are a bit scammy. But what we're going to do is just look at where we prefer to have our money, trade, do whatever. So yeah, check that out on Tuesday or Wednesday in CC Pro. Yeah, Usman, love BC Backer. I think blockchain backer is one of the best. I think he posts some of the best stuff on YouTube. I think right now he's bearish, but he's been bullish for a while. So yeah, like I've spoke about why I am bullish before. So yeah, it's everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I'm sure BCB is doing what's right for him and maybe his audience, and he's definitely made a lot of cash from his XRP holdings, so I don't think he's doing too badly. Even if he sells and XRP rips from here, he'll have still made some serious cash. But yeah, one of the best, I'd say. Him and Mitch Ray, probably the two I watch most on crypto stuff and charts and stuff. I don't really rate a lot of other people, to be honest. But the one thing I'll say about BC Backer is at least he sticks to his guns and he backs it up. Whereas what most people do is post something. I actually tweeted something the other day. Cointelegraph had posted, and within 24 hours they deleted the post, because that's what these big KOLs, influencers do. They post about 1 million times a day. So by 3 days later, you have to sift through like 200 posts and they delete ones and you can't track it and stuff. It's just all a big game. And some of them don't even post what they believe. A lot of these big accounts just post stuff because they know it'll get clicks, whether they believe it or not. So yeah, at least Blockchain Backer sticks these guns and sticks to what he believes in and reiterates what he believes in, whether you like it or not. It's Just Me says, don't the US government take 5-year on the bond rollover, not the usual 4-year? Well, the US, it depends what bonds, because they've got all different duration. Not entirely sure what you mean by that question. Let me go jump into CC Pro, because let's see. There was some decent questions earlier. Oh yeah, so KH, he said our rate cut's not favoured, and so we've already answered that. I think we'll get a rate cut. Jamie Mick says, what about investing in property? Is that something you would do with crypto profits? And Usman says, do you still believe 10x's are coming? So there's a few questions to go through, and then we'll cover Borg. So Mike, no. It's called, and Deck's right. This is the thing with doing this every single day for however many years we've done it. You start to see these things, like people calling tops, people calling bottoms, people calling things all the time. Like, it's like somebody posted in CC Pro something that Ben Cohen said. And I don't know if it's because we have an audience that people watch all the time, but it's almost like Ben Cohen says it, so it must be true. And then everybody forgets when it's not true, and nobody ever goes back. And it's the same with the M2 Bitcoin correlation. Everybody was asking me questions about it on stream. Everybody kept saying, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I kept saying, zoom out, look at 2021, 2020. There was no correlation. It's a snapshot in time. And everybody believed in the M2 correlation, and then it failed. And everybody forgets that it failed, and everybody forgets all the people that called it. So you just have to make up your mind, and you also have to just balance everybody's opinions. Plus, regardless of what we say, is, BCB right now might be bearish, but it's getting him a lot of clicks, so he's not doing too badly. Right, so property. So yeah, I think property is a decent place to put profits. However, if it was me, personally, I wouldn't be putting it in UK property. I think UK property is going to come under severe regulation in the next few years. And at the end of the day, UK property, I don't know what the average appreciation is on property, unless you're serious about it and you buy really cheap and you can flip it and you can do all that stuff that I just don't have the patience for, time, energy, or skills to do it myself. So I would be buying a property to rent out. Well, the returns are like, what, 8%? But UKM2 averages 8% a year. So you're not actually beating inflation. You can find much better investment opportunities, whether it be in the markets, whether it be in the stock, like the stock market. The S&P does more than 8% a year most years. Whether it be in ETFs or property in somewhere like Dubai, I think you could probably do well. But I'm not a property investor. I don't think I ever will be. I think I'll hold some property, but I don't think it's going to be something that I pursue. And the reason for that is just because when you actually factor in the risk, the costs, you basically just break even versus inflation. So yeah, I think it's a decent place to store your wealth if you're not really that fussed and you just want it as a nest egg for long term. If you could get decent property, maybe do an Airbnb and earn decent money, then fine. But in terms of flipping it and all that, it doesn't interest me, to be honest. I think there's better opportunities to earn the same yield over time, and not have as big risks. So that would be my my take, and the index just back me up. Yeah, UAE. I've heard some. So Deck will know better than me because he's out there. But Dubai, I think decent. But I actually think there's other areas. So I could be totally wrong, but I think Abu Dhabi looks nice. And is it Rak? I keep hearing about Rak. I've seen some nice properties there. Apparently they're going to have the first ever casino in UAE as well. So that might be an opportunity, but I'm not an expert. I'm not a property guy. I just listen to other people that know better than me. In terms of the UK, the one thing I will say is the easiest way for them to fix the affordability crisis is hammer landlords and just start taxing the life out of landlords, make it impossible for planning permission, take away Airbnb licenses. If they did all of that within the next 6 months, house prices crash, affordability becomes amazing, young people feel good again, Labour become the saviours. Because right now there's an attack on the wealthy in the West, but predominantly in the UK, bit in the States, and a lot of it centres around housing affordability. Well, they can't just build houses. It's going to take them years to do it. They don't have the money to do it. So the easiest thing to do is just take the wealth from the wealthy, take the property, and just regulate the absolute life out of it so that being a landlord isn't profitable, house prices collapse, affordability becomes amazing, young people feel happy, and we live in a communist country, basically. That's why I wouldn't invest in UK property, to be blunt. Yeah, it's just me. You could be right. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, you could be right. I know they've got hundreds and hundreds of T-bills right now. The majority of debt being issued by the US right now is short term. So that just means they keep having to cycle it. And rates have started creeping up again. So they're going to have to print. They're going to have to buy their own debt. It's just a matter of when, not if. And all they're doing is trying to get to the end of this year so that they can just have a massive 2026, win the midterms, and then Trump gets another 2 years to have his say on what his legacy is. The other thing is the repo is pretty much empty. So it's now done. This will fill up over the next few weeks. This will start climbing back to the 400 billion level via the TGA. So yeah, we'll see that. So I wanted to talk about Borg. So there's been a lot of hate on Borg because the price is absolutely cratered. Quite conveniently back to the 200-week moving average. I spoke about this before, so I've spoken about it a lot, to be honest. And you can look this up. This isn't a crypto thing. In investing, people typically sell their winners first. So what I mean by that is if the market crashes or there's a lot of fear or they start freaking out about their investments, they sell their winners to secure profits. So at least they feel like they've won something for the market. And then the rest, they're just happy to just go into a loss because they know it'll bounce back eventually. But if I had a portfolio of 50k and the only profitable coin was Borg and it was up 100%, well, I'm more likely to sell the Borg than sell my LimeWire because I don't want to sell in a loss, which is why the number one rules. I don't know if it'll bounce back, and I want to have some win from the market, so I sell my Borg. I believe that is what we're seeing in the Borg chart right now. I 100% believe that people are freaking out about the top being in, the cycle being over, 4-year cycle. Also, a lot of people just expected to have made money by this point in the year, and maybe they just need the cash. Like, there's a lot of people that over leveraged themselves because this should be the top. So they went really hard at the start of the year because they were like, well, as long as I can get to November, December, then I'll be able to take profits out and I'll be fine. Well, now there's no profits. Now they're maybe struggling financially, so they have to sell their winners to basically survive. So I think that's what we're seeing in the Borg chart right now. I think people are selling just to make sure they've got a win from the market if this is the end, which it's not. And it's totally understandable, especially with the amount of noise on crypto Twitter, basically anywhere. You look at any crypto news headline and it's just doom scrolling all the time right now. So I think that's what's happening with Borg. I've also got this chart here. So basically what this chart shows is the average buy price along the bottom and the amount going up. So basically what you can see is the highest amount of Borg is held by people that bought around the 20 cent level. So this is where all the Borg basically sits between, say, I don't know, that must be like 26 and this will be 18. So between 18 cents and 26 cents, that's where the majority of Borg sits. So even today, people are still in profit. The majority of the Borg is still in profit right now, right this second, even with the price down. And then when you get up to kind of the 60 cent level, I think it went to 66 cents. A lot of these people are in like 3x profit, maybe even more, 4x. Well, if you've had a cycle of 4 or 5 years and all you hold is altcoins, you've probably not taken any profit out of the market. Unless you hold Solana, XRP, Ethereum. If you hold a lot of the other stuff, you've taken zero profit from the market in 4 years. Maybe you just wanted to take some profit. Maybe you wanted to go and buy that house or that car that you've been telling yourself you're going to buy since 2021. So I think right now it's disappointing how much prices retrace, but I think it's just natural. I think people are exhausted. People are completely fed up with the market, and maybe they're just taking the one win that they have in their portfolio, and that's Borg. And unfortunately for us, it's Borg because that's also the one that a lot of us hold, the majority or the biggest altcoin holding. Frustrating, but again, like I said, what it's going to do is it's going to shift the distribution. So this will come down. That means it'll be more distributed chart. This big bar will come down, and there'll be more spread out across the price up to the 60 cent level, because there'll be people buying between 40 and 60 cents. So this now becomes higher in here, and this becomes lower. And that distribution, just like we saw with Bitcoin, is amazing for price discovery when price starts to rise again. So short term, it's not nice. Long term, it's amazingly bullish for long-term price appreciation. And what everybody should be amazingly bullish about is that there is zero sell pressure once we get past $1. Nobody holds up here. So everybody will be in profit. Price is going to fly. There's zero resistance. Price will absolutely skyrocket once we get beyond $1. Let's see. Loads of questions just came in. Bailey says thoughts on funding other people who are doing property. That's a complete up to you risk question. If you had 50k right now, lending it to some guy to do up property would not be where I put my cash. If you've got 50k right now and you want to deploy it in the market, DM me or Deck and we'll probably be able to help you out. So yeah. Reese, any chance you could see my email? Yeah, check it out. Ali, how easy is it to invest in UAE real estate from the UK? Those questions are for Deck, but very easy is from people I know that have done it. Very, very easy. Shiv says Lloyds of London not being able to buy UK property. There we go. That's the start. Yeah, Jamie. Usman, once we get below the weekly 200-day moving average, it's definitely a bear market. Dex says also been in a bear market for 5 years. Bitcoin's been in a bull market for 3. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing is, I think we're starting to see that shift in the market, and that it's not one, like, it's not an entire market. Just like the stock market, like the Mag 7's been in a bull run for 2 years, but the rest of the stock market's not. You know, if we look at I don't even know if I've got any non-tech stuff here. But like the Russell, I mean, it's still had massive corrections. It's basically been in a sideways since 2021. From March 2021, the Russell currently sits up 1%. 1% in 4.5 years. That's all the Russell is. So that's small cap stocks in the US is up less than 2% in 4.5 years. That's crypto. That's literally altcoins. That is literally total 3 in the others chart. But no one talks about the Russell being in a bear market. We just have to accept that it's a maturing market. We've got ETFs, we've got institutions buying Bitcoin and Ethereum. We saw the ETF as well. Like, this is why I don't understand why people are bearish right now. Because if you close down the charts and you just look at what's actually happening in the real world, you've got the Bitcoin ETF past 100 billion IBIT. It's the fastest ETF to do that. I think the second fastest was gold, and it took 40 years. Bitcoin done it in 2 years. The Solana ETF went live and was the number 1 ETF in 2025, and it did 400 million in the first week. The XRP ETF went live and did, I think it did the 9th highest one-day volume of any ETF this year. And they were issued by, the Solana and XRP were issued by Canary. Like, not even, like, it was one firm that issued it. There's 120 ETFs to come into this market. What buy pressure does that bring? What hype does that bring? And also, what exposure does that bring to pension funds, 401ks, hedge funds, all these other things? So there's ETFs. Then you've got QE. We know it's coming. Well, QT's ending. We know QE follows. We've got rate cuts. We're in a cutting cycle. We have the stock market at all-time highs. Continues to put in all-time highs. This is the thing. I laugh because people were saying, you know, the stock market's crashing. Well, the Dow Jones put in its all-time high last week, and it's down 2.5%. The S&P 500 is now down 2.5% from its all-time high. It's hardly a crash. I don't think it's time to call in the emergency services because we're down 2.5% for all-time highs. And then you've got the Clarity Act. You've got Trump administration is full-on bullish about crypto. You've got the Clarity Act, which will be passed before Christmas. That's going to bring market structure. The biggest thing the Clarity Act is going to bring is a lack of wash trading and manipulation. It's going to get rid of the wash trading and manipulation. And I've said for months, and I hope I'm right on this, Binance is going to be key to it. Binance is going to become regulated in the US at the exact same time as the Clarity Act gets passed, and that's why they've been so bad this year in manipulating price, because it's their last act, it's their last dance. They have to make as much cash, because after that they have to actually play by the rules going into the next year. So you take all that into account. I've not even spoke about AI and how that impacts crypto, but how can you be bearish with all that going on and all that coming over the next few months? It's just exhausting because it's taken a lot longer to get to where we want to get to. That's all it is. Let's see. Usman says, you could argue that alt season isn't going to happen because it's not pegged to Bitcoin. So, for me, it doesn't matter. Like, they said the exact same thing in the last bull market. 2021, oh, there's so many more coins than 2017. Yeah, but there's so much more money. There's so much more liquidity. There's so much more dollars in the system. Like, look at this chart. forget where we are now. Where's 2017? 2017, the Fed's balance sheet was 4 trillion. Well, 2021, it went up to 9 trillion. 2026 and beyond, it's going to go up to 13, 14 trillion. There's more money, there's more liquidity, there's more debt, there's more adoption, there's more people buying. So, yeah, there's more coins, but there's also more demand than ever before. So, that for me, that argument never stacks up because there was more coins in 2021 than 2017. It didn't affect the market. I think it's hard. So I'm trying to be nice, I suppose. I'm trying not to. I guess our job isn't to come on here and try and convince you that we're in a bull market. Like, my job's not to tell you not to sell because we're in a bear market. If you think we're in a bear market and we're never going to have an altcoin run, and you truly, truly believe it, why haven't you sold? Like, and I'm trying to be nice, but like, see if you genuinely don't believe what we're saying, why haven't you sold your coins? Like, I can't put it any more blunt. Like, I'm not here to convince you to hold certain things and stay in crypto. I'm telling you what I believe. I'm telling you what I think's happening. I'm telling you what I see coming and what I'm doing with my personal investments. I'm not here to convince anybody. Like, if you really truly believe and you want to believe some other KOL on Twitter that says it's a bear market and the top's in, then you should probably sell your coins. I wouldn't be doing it. I think selling right now will be the stupidest mistake anybody ever makes. Similar to the last, in 2024, when somebody sold XRP in September 2024, which was here. Somebody sold, and I tweeted about it at the time saying it's going to be the biggest mistake of the bull run, and guess what? Within 3 weeks, we did a 6x. So, I guess the point is we're bullish. Loads of things are happening, but I certainly wouldn't be selling right now in a massive drawdown that just before we go, you know, we've got the Trump administration. Literally, you've got Eric Trump on TV saying that crypto is going to have the biggest bull run of all time, and he holds what, like $250 million worth of crypto. Like he's just not going to say it. I think for me, altcoins are going to rally hard. The liquidity coming in is going to be insane. I get why people get frustrated because obviously we've been saying this for longer and maybe it's taken longer. But ultimately, it is what it is. When it happens, and it'll happen really quick. And like I said the other day, if it takes you 6 months to make life-changing gains, or it takes you 2 years to make life-changing gains, you still made life-changing gains. Like, you'll survive, and you'll look back on it as a blip. The extra 12 months that it's maybe taken to get to where we need to get to, it's going to be a blip on everything else. And also, you'll still make way quicker returns than you could make anywhere else on the planet. And I include property, gold, stocks. Yeah. What amount of liquidity? I think the liquidity in crypto, I think the total market cap will get to about 10 trillion. So there's about 7 trillion worth of liquidity going to come out of the market over the next 12 months, I would imagine. Maybe less, maybe 7 trillion, so maybe 4 trillion comes in. But there's huge amounts of liquidity coming into the market. Between crypto, plus AI, plus regulation, it's going to be an insane time. You've got countries around the world paying attention to crypto now. That wasn't the case in 2021, bar El Salvador. Like, you've literally got countries in the Middle East try to tokenize rights to sporting brands. I know of one fund that's trying to tokenize significant brand deals, all using crypto. So, yeah. Let's see what other questions. Yeah, Niall's right as well. Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock's wanting to tokenise everything. Property, stocks, everything. So I wouldn't bet against BlackRock. Niall, in terms of where the liquidity is coming from, it's coming from governments around the world. Every single government in the world is in massive debt. And every single person under the age of 30 in the world has an affordability problem. They don't make enough money to cover expenses. They can't buy a house, especially in the Western world, but even in Japan, certain areas in Asia, like anyone in the Western world, the average home ownership in the US, the average age to buy your first home in the US is now over 40 for the first time in history. Imagine having to be 40 to buy your first house. The UK is going to be the same soon. How are they going to fix that? They're going to fix it by printing trillions of dollars. And because of the amount of debt that they've already built up over the last 40 years, they're going to have to print more than ever before. So that's where the liquidity is coming from. They're going to absolutely kill fiat currency over the next couple of years. Why do you think the UK is making moves to limit crypto withdrawals, limit bank withdrawals? They're getting ready for a massive exodus of the UK banking system. Why are they coming up with an exit tax? If you're not worried about your economy, you don't need an exit tax. They're worried about their economy because they know when they start destroying the value of the pound, everybody's going to leave that's got money. And the only way to recoup that money is tax them on the way out. So the signs are all there. This is the thing, is if you just ignore the noise of crypto Twitter and ignore the charts and the prices and the red candles, all the signals are there for a massive boom in liquidity. And crypto benefits the most from rising liquidity. Bailey's away to watch I'm a Celeb. Alright guys, to be honest, I'm going to wrap up anyway. I just wanted to answer some questions. I hope that helped. I hope that put some things into perspective. As always, we are in CC Pro dropping all this information day in, day out. If you're not in CC Pro, this is what CC Pro Alpha brings. I thought I'd share the Alpha tile tonight because not everybody knows that we have an Alpha section. On top of what you already get in CC Pro, you also get an exclusive Alpha live stream every week, and you get to network with some of the high net worth individuals in CC Pro, and you get alternative investments. So a few people have asked me about stocks, about property. Alpha's the best place to get all that information. So, yeah, that's all for tonight. Hope that helped. Hope you enjoyed that. And, yeah, we are super bullish. Funny story before I go. I met with a founder this week, actually of Xborg, Louis. Did a podcast that's in CC Pro. You should definitely check it out. Me and Louis agreed on a lot of things. So it's not just me saying these things. Founders in the space all agree with what my thesis is. But what Louis did say was he loves the fact that we continue to bill post on X because it's full of doomers who are just negative. So, yeah, that was from a founder this week. So, yeah, we must be doing something right. All right, I will be back soon. I'll be back with Alpha tomorrow night, and I'll be back live very soon. See you all later.